I just want to say I'm an Eved Hashem. I'm a servant of the source of life, as we all are. Perkins, thank you so much for inviting us. Just your voice and just your welcoming people grounded me and invited me in this moment. So I want to thank you. Friends, I want to say it's, I was going to say it's a joy. We're in the 3 weeks. We are a couple of days before Tisha B'Av. We are among a huge crisis in Israel, as you know. And it is a joy to be here together and to come to sit together, which I think may be one of the most important things we can do in moments of crisis. As many of you know, I live in Israel. I'm not in Israel at the moment, but my husband had to come back quickly, and we are fearing, civil violence. We're fearing, and I think it's important to say it, not in order to go into loops of fear, but in order to wake up, remembering that everything is possible, that destruction is possible, that it happened before because of what's going on now, because of sinat chinam, of great treacherous hatred. And I was just speaking with my wonderful Me'or Enaim class. By the way, I saw some of you are here, some dear students. We were just speaking before about the importance of speech, right? We are just starting to open the book of Dvarim, the book of words. And in the Jewish tradition, we're being repeated constantly of the creative impact, creative quality of words, that words create the world, right? Theologically and symbolically and spiritually and psychologically. And words create reality. And before words, what comes before words is consciousness. It's awareness. And so we're here together for this half hour of practice to cultivate, as I just saw with my class, da'at rechava, a wider consciousness. And I really want to say it again, how important individual spiritual practice is to the tikkun of the world. Because the state of the world is coming from actions from people in power who are not acting from this place of wider consciousness, right? So spiritual practice is real and has a real impact, the absence thereof or the presence thereof, because then it translates into our speech, and our speech impacts people and our actions impact people. So what you are doing now by coming to sit today, I want to say, is very important to the world. It's not just, we believe in meditation because it helps us feel calmer and more relaxed and more centered. And it's all true. It's all true. And it helps us have more insight and understanding and compassion and cultivate all the midot that really bring happiness into our own lives. But I want to add, and especially in these troubled times, that there is another dimension to it, which is a political dimension of spiritual practice, which is that I have an impact on the world. And it starts now with something as simple as what we're about to do now, which is close our eyes and sit quietly and cultivate a greater awareness, cultivate a connection with the truth inside, with emet. So friends, let's close our eyes. And before we go into our learning for today, I want to invite us for a couple of minutes of quieting. And I'm going to play a song, which I just played earlier. And I will explain after what it is. I'll play just the beginning of this song. I'm going to share my screen. And I want to invite you to close your eyes. Now you still have a minute or two to close everything you need to close if you didn't, to settle. I want to invite you to give your most beautiful gift to yourself and to each other for now, which is your full presence for this time of practice. So please close your eyes and starting with a deep breath, sitting deeper, grounding deeper, and listening.
ונחקורה ונשובה עד השם נחפשה דרכינו ונחקורה ונשובה עד אשר נחפשה דרכינו ונחקורה ונשובה עד אשר נחפשה דרכינו ונחקורה ונשובה עד אשר נישא לבבינו אל כפיים אל כן בשמיים נחפשה ונחקורה ונשובה עד אשר נחפשה דרכינו ונחקורה ונשובה עד אשר נחפשה דרכינו ונחקורה ונשובה עד אשר נישא לבבינו אל כפיים אל כן בשמיים נחפשה ונחקורה ונשובה עד אשר נישא לבבינו אל כפיים אל כן בשמיים נחפשה ונחקורה ונשובה עד אשר נחפשה ונחקורה ונשובה עד אשר
So I hope you've settled with this song by Israeli singer Yonatan Razel on a pasuk in Echa that we read on Erev Tisha B'Av, which we will read in a couple of days. And it's this turning point after the descent, after the really letting ourselves go low and cry for all the destruction and brokenness in the world and also in our inner worlds, which is the beautiful opportunity of Tisha B'Av. And that's the beauty of it, is that when we accept instead of resisting to go low, to really surrender, to go low, then there is going to be a kind of natural moment of coming up again, which is one of the main teachings of many Hasidic masters, including the Meor Einaim, which we will learn from now. A little insight from him on Parashat Va'etchanan. And this song, this pasuk from Echa, Nachpesa darkenu v'nachkora v'neshuva ad Hashem. We will search, we will investigate, we will look into our ways, our way of behaving in the world, and we will search, nachkor, and we will return, nashuv, tshuva, to God. This is the turning point. Right? Crying is important, but it's not enough. Right? It's not enough to just cry. I can also wake up and say, wow, let's look inside. Let's inquire. Let's look at how I'm living. What do I do with my water? What do I do with my garbage? What do I do with my colleagues? How do I speak to people? How do I behave? Do I give enough tzedakah? Do I give enough money to those who have less? Even if I don't have much, there are always people who have even less. How do I live? Because if each of us was really living from this place of inquiry, cheshbon nefesh, right? Like looking into our souls and doing tshuva, coming back to our natural goodness, then the world would look different. And so it starts with each of us. This is the song we started with. Now I want to add another dimension to it. And this is our little learning for today. I'm going to share my screen with the source sheet. From Parashat Va'etchanan. Va'etchanan means I entreated. It's Moshe entreating God, right? Entreating the divine and saying twice to God, speaking twice about the greatness and the might and the power of God, of the source of life. And that is another way of starting tshuva, is to, in a way, surrender to life, recognizing that life, the source of life, is greater than us, that the environment, that nature is more powerful than us, and that if we abuse it, it will expel us, right? With the global warming, we can see nature is stronger than us. It's going to have the last word. It's the same with the divine, the source of life. And so, just like I have my own responsibility for my own journey, right? Through deciding or not to do cheshbon nefesh, to do tshuva, it's not enough. I also need help. And so I can pray for help. And Va'etchanan, the Meor Einayim, commenting on this parasha, is immediately mentioning the haftarah that we read from Yeshayahu that says, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. Parashat we read on Shabbat Chazon, before Tisha B'Av. Comfort, comfort my people, console my people. Speaks to the heart of Jerusalem, Ber el Lev Yerushalayim, and declare to her, basically, that the message is, she's atoned. She's atoned. Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. And so this is what I wanted to share today, friends, as a kavanah for our meditation. Who is God talking to? Right? Because it's Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, Yamar Elohechem. Your God will say, comfort my people. So who is God talking to when he says, comfort my people? And I want to suggest that God is talking to God's self. God is talking to God's self. Just like we have in the Talmud, in Masechet Barachot, this beautiful prayer of God, where there is this whole Talmudic discussion, which is, does God pray? And if God prays, what is God's prayer? And God's prayer, friends, is, Yehi ratzon milfanai, may it be my will, may it be the desire before me. Yechshvechu rachamei et kasi, that my compassion will conquer my anger, that my mercy will prevail over my other midot, and especially din, and that I may conduct myself towards my children bemidat rachamim, from the attribute of compassion. So this is a time that we need both, friends, and I'm going to stop sharing now. This is a time that we need both. We need our own kind of wake-up call of cheshbon nefesh, of inquiry, of accounting of our soul and of tshuva, and we need the mercy of the divine. And so let's sit. Let's sit with these two wings of tikkun, personal tikkun and tikkun of the world. I want to invite you to close your eyes. Let's take a couple of deeper breaths. Settle in our silence now. And with the next breath out, feeling my body grounding a little deeper. My hands heavier on my lap. My legs heavier, my feet heavier on the ground. My shoulders softer. My belly softer. Sensing my breath in my belly. A very soft and gracious movement. The back and the forth. I may want to use that movement of my breath moving through my body as an anchor, so I can stay grounded in this moment, in this place. As my thoughts want to take me back in the past or forward in the future, I can let them come and go like clouds, and staying grounded, like the vast sky that stays open, and vast and still and clear. And today I may want to do a meditation of cheshbon nefesh, kind of reviewing what are ways that I feel unskillful and unhelpful. What are ways I would like to bring some tikkun to them? And because we're investigating our hearts, you may want to place a hand on your heart and a hand on your belly. Very optional. Daber lev Yerushalayim. Speak to the heart of Yerushalayim, which is also the heart of each of us. What are places in my life where I can bring more awareness, more that consciousness, more kindness to myself and others? And if my mind is wandering, friends, That's fine. Just gently coming back to this intention of presence, cheshbon nefesh, for today's meditation, of tshuva, coming back over and over again to this moment. And through my own tikkun midot, through my own ethical work, can I be the healing the world needs? Can I be the healing the world needs? And so often we seek for healing of the soul, of the mind, of the body. And yes, but can we also remember that we can be the healing to others, to the world? Can we open our heart to the compassion of the divine? And we trust that prayer of God, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, comfort, comfort my people. We call upon that when we feel that we don't have the strength. Remembering these two wings of practice, my tshuva and God's compassion. Full presence for the last couple of breaths. My tshuva and God's compassion. And I just want to close by singing what we opened with, the opening song. נחפשה דרכנו ונרקוב ונשוב עד השם. 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 Beautiful breath in and out. Let's say Kaddish.
Mira, thank you so much for that beautiful teaching. I know that it's 1 o'clock and some may need to leave, but I invite everyone to stay just while we recite Kaddish together for those among us in mourning. This is something we do every day. Jet will put the words of Kaddish, thanks, Jet, on the screen. Wonderful. And I invite those who are remembering someone they love to share the name in the chat. And I invite all of us to unmute and to rise in body or in spirit so that we can recite Kaddish together. Thank you, everybody. For those who need to leave us now, may you go in peace and good health, and we hope to see you tomorrow. And for those who are able to stay, we are blessed to be able to ask some questions of Mira about her beautiful teaching today, about practice in general. And I invite you to put your questions in the chat. Mira, while people are doing that, it usually takes people a minute to put some questions. I was personally really, really moved by your teaching. And by this idea, this Hasidic teaching at this time of year, and help me if I have any of this wrong, please correct me, but and of teshuva, which I'd never thought of it in this way, but of going down to come back up, to going down to ascend and return to God, to engage in teshuva. That's something that feels so real to me and so known in my own life, both in little ways, little going down and returning, but also in big ways. Many years ago, I had a very serious depression, and it was very much a descent to part of a larger returning to God and shedding things that needed to be let go of, letting go of, and accepting something larger than myself. Many of the things that the language you used, I would have used. And always, even at the bottom of that well, the presence of God was really visceral, and I could feel God's compassion that you talked about. But I also know that for some people, that's really not the case, that they have that sense of descending to ascend, or that sense of God's compassion in that scary place as you let go and fall. I don't know if you have anything to say about that or thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think it's it's a tough question, and it's a very important one. If I understand well, and correct me if I, in a way, through your own descent, because you're talking from the wisdom from your own experience, you felt the compassion of the divine. So you were able to trust that there would be something after. And not everybody feels that, right? And so how do we speak to that? Yeah. I think it's essential. Actually, it's an essential point about spiritual practice. And it's the difference between practice and experience. In the sense that sometimes we are blessed, and it really is grace, to experience hope, to experience, right, the invitation we have on the Shabbat before Tisha B'Av, chazon, vision. Somehow something in us knows that, it's not too late, or that something, and we don't always. And spiritual practice, in my view, is very much about, at some point also, deciding, even if I don't feel it right now, and because I have wisdom, texts to guide me and to help me, I have kind of prompts for my practice. I have an invitation to believe even in what I'm not feeling right now. Does that make sense, right? It's not in my experience right now to feel hopeful or to feel, but here are teachings that are inviting me to kind of trust what I don't yet feel and experience. And a lot of the emotional life that we have, if we don't have a spiritual practice, in a way, a lot of this emotional life that we have is passive. Something difficult happens, I am, destroyed. Something happy, I am happy. And on a smaller scale, right? I receive a nice email, I feel happy, or a compliment, right? Or someone says something unpleasant in the street or in my family, and I feel down, right? So actually, we have spontaneously a relationship to emotions that is passive. And a lot of spiritual practice is about reclaiming agency in my emotional life. And that, to me, is the connection between spiritual practice and emotional intelligence. That I can reclaim agency. And agency is understanding that I'm going to practice trust. I'm going to practice surrender. It doesn't mean I'm going to feel it right away. I may not feel right away the trust. I may not feel right away the surrender. And by the way, I don't get to choose when the surrender happens, right? But I can invite that. I can invite that by setting intentions. And that is the power of a very, very central concept in spiritual practice, which is kavanah, intention. This is why kavanah is so important for us, because it starts with this. If I set intentions to have that rechava, to have a wider awareness, to be grateful, right? A lot of the prayers we say, the first prayer of the morning is Moda ani, grateful I am. What if I don't feel grateful? Right? Sometimes I'm getting up, I don't feel grateful. I'm tired, I'm grumpy, right? But I have to connect to great. And so the more we connect to intention, the more these emotions, the vision, the hope, the trust that will help us get up on our feet will develop. So that's what I would say the bottom line of the message is. Thank God we don't have to rely on our own emotions or capacity to trust or to be hopeful. Sometimes we are hopeless. And I can share for myself that because, with all the practice, when I feel desperate or hopeless, which happens less and less and less, but when I feel low, I just soften and I hug myself as much as I can, and I invite tenderness and I invite compassion and I pray and I just go low and I quiet. And I know it will come back up again, because that's a natural way of things. As I think, Stephen shared it, right? The Ratzov V'Shov, like that there is a movement. There is this movement, which is one central Hasidic teaching. Some teaching that I've been with this group studying Parashat HaShavua with the Meor Einayim since Bereshit. In almost every parasha, he mentions descents and ascents, and he reminds us that because of all the qualities we can learn in our descents, surrender, humility, resilience, strength, compassion, then we're going to rise up even higher after. And this is also the invitation of Tisha B'Av.
Mm-hmm. Can you unpack what Stephen, for those of us who don't know the Hebrew, Ratzu, I'm not even going to say.
Yeah. So Ratzu V'Shov, absolutely. It's in the Sefer Yetzirah, which is one of the oldest works of Jewish mysticism. And Actually, it's taking inspiration from Sefer Ezekiel, that talks about a vision where you have chayot that come and go. That's the pshat, that's the literal level of meaning of the text. Okay, but in a deeper symbolic level, and the Meir translates it this way, chayut, life, ratzov v'shov, life comes and goes. It's like runs forward and then comes back, right? Lashuv, it's the same root as the tshuva. So this is a horizontal movement, but then applied vertically to the emotional life, it becomes yerida ve'aliyah. Yerida l'tzorech aliyah. So that would be more to our subject today, yerida, aliyah.
Beautiful. Gwen has made a comment. One of my fears about the current situation in Israel is the way the structures of Israel's democracies are eroding. What is the tikkun on a justice level that you think is most urgent, and how can spiritual practice support that work?
I don't know if Gwyn is asking me my personal opinion on the justice system in Israel. I won't give personal opinions on politics. I do believe we need a tikkun and it's urgent. I don't know how it will happen. But what I do believe in, and it's what I opened with today, is that personal work is absolutely essential. The people in positions of power who make horrendous decisions, abusive decisions, I mean, what's going on right now, it's so violent. If they had a spiritual practice, which means a work of real cheshbon nefesh, like we've done today, inquiry, which was just a very short meditation, right? But really looking into our hearts, right? Because awareness cleans the ego, and that is the problem. I mean, the whole world of spiritual practice starts with this. There's a problem. My ego wants me to be one, to be above you, to, dominate everyone, to have everything, and let me just have the power and stay in power and manipulate the justice system so that I can stay in power. That's the ego. It's the oldest story of the world. Yeah. Spiritual practice is all about, I don't want this. And this belongs. It's part of being alive. It's part of being human, right? Yetzer hara, yetzer tov. We have an evil inclination, a good inclination, and we have freedom. We can choose, and we can choose to nurture the seeds of Yetzer Tov. So that's what I believe spiritual practice can do. It's really, I'm calling each of us, because we all have circles of influence. We all have impact. And also because there is a lot of what's real in the world is not palpable. Energy is real. When you have people gathering together to raise consciousness, I believe it does impact the world. And I believe Jews getting together and sitting together and working day in and day out, like IGS is doing with the daily sits, right? Like you guys are doing, coming to sit. It's raising the energy of awareness and kindness and spiritual discipline of tikkun midot. I believe in the work of tikkun midot. It's one of my most important work that I do personally and with my students. And meditation in the Jewish tradition is directly connected to the work of tikkun midot, of healing of our character traits, which usually is associated with musar, kind of discipline, but it's actually very much a Hasidic, Hasidic ethos. Meditation for tikkun midot. I'm going to raise self-awareness. I'm going to get to know myself better so that I can heal my character traits, so that I can amend my behavior in the world. And this is going to have a direct impact in the world. We just have to not being, the Pirkei Avot tells us the task is great and it's urgent, but don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. It may seem like it's a drop in the ocean, but I think we all have a responsibility where we are. People in positions of power have their responsibility where they are. And each of us where we are, we have a responsibility. If we all take responsibility, take ownership of what's going on in Israel and in the world, if we all did that, the myriad of humans in the world, can you imagine?
Yeah, it's such a, you can see the gratitude flowing in, Mira, for your teaching and your wisdom, which is I find so helpful both in living sort of practically in the world, like how we treat one another, how we respond to really difficult situations like what's happening in Israel, and also for the personal difficulties we face, like what may happen to us emotionally if we really are struggling, to keep that spiritual practice can really help us keep that faith and give us a greater perspective, awareness. Mira, thank you as always. I love your teachings. We all do. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, friends. I'm looking at your faces.
And we will see you soon again. Bye-bye.